is a new year. And with a new year, we have this sense that there's a clean slate, that there's a new canvas, a blank canvas in our lives and in our work for us to paint. Oftentimes with a new year, there's a feeling that there's at least an opportunity for some new beginnings, a fresh start. And of course, with that, many people are motivated to implement changes in their life, their relationships, and the vision that they might have for their team, their organization. This happens every new year, and I want to make sure that we enter it with a great mindset and to be thinking about what are those authentic changes or authentic new beginnings that we might need. I want to help you set yourself up for better success in making your vision become a reality. So, on today's podcast, we're going to start out with some reminders to help you with your vision out the windshield of your new year. Wherever you are hoping to go in this year ahead, this podcast is going to be about remembering these key visioning tips that will help your vision actually have staying power. Welcome back to The Thermostat with Jason Barger. If you're currently on a commute, a walk, or just a micro break in your day, glad you're making time to step back, to think, and to reflect on the next steps on your journey. I've never been more convinced the best leaders and team cultures in the world are the ones that make time to step back, breathe in good oxygen, and calibrate their thermostat. I hope today's conversation leaves you feeling grounded and inspired. Now let's dive into today's topic to engage our minds and hearts in order to authentically lead and create compelling cultures wherever we are in the world. Hey everybody. It's Jason, and welcome back to the Thermostat Podcast. Season 6 is here. Season 6 is upon us. It's hard to even believe. It's mind-boggling for me to even think that we have 6 seasons of this podcast already. It feels like we just started, but we have well over 100 episodes. So excited about it. Thank you for everybody that's been a listener from the very beginning. So much excitement, so much growth, so much great stuff has happened on the podcast. If you are somebody that is new to the podcast, welcome. So glad you're here. And I invite you to go back and listen to some of the old episodes because there have been some amazing guests that have joined me on this podcast, conversations, and also micro podcasts about topics and nuggets that I think will be valuable to you for your life and certainly the journey that you're on, maybe as a leader or within the organization that you serve. So if you're new to the podcast, welcome. Dive in. Glad you're here. If you are one of the OGs, somebody that has been with me from the very beginning of this podcast, welcome back. So glad you are continuing to be a part of this, and you give me energy and inspire me to keep going. So thank you for that. This is awesome. I'm so excited that we're into season 6. I can promise you this, that as always, this is going to be a place for you to step back, for you to think, for this to be a positive place that fills your mind and your heart, so that wherever you are on your journey, as a human, as somebody who's in a relationship, as somebody who's leading or a part of a team or organization or thinking about the culture that you're trying to create, then I hope this continues to add value to you and be a space for you to kind of step back and think and organize your thoughts and your actions that will follow. I'm more convinced of this than ever, especially as the calendar turns to a new year, and especially all that's been happening in the world over the last few years. More convinced of this than ever, that authentic leadership is needed in the world today. And also, people are thirsty for people that want to be a part of teams and organizations and just a group of humans. They want compelling cultures. They want to be a part of cultures that mean something. So thanks again for tuning in and being a part of this conversation that we know carries over into all aspects of our life and work. Glad you're here. Before we get started today, if you will just do me a quick favor, I know it's annoying for me to ask, but thank you for receiving this and understanding the fact that this is just the way this works. If you'll do me a quick favor, rate this podcast 5 stars. If you will, on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this, write a nice review. Go to Google or Amazon or Apple or anywhere out there that has this podcast, and I hope you'll leave a nice review, 5 stars, of course, and then also amplify it. Help share it on social media. Share it with the people in your life or on your team or throughout your organization that ought to be a part of these conversations to stimulate this within your team. Those are the ways in which this amplifies and helps this podcast spread and helps people find it, help have access to these messages. So thank you for everybody that takes the time to do that. I appreciate that more than you know. It is a new year, and with a new year, we have this sense that there's a clean slate. We have this sense that there's a new canvas, a blank canvas in our lives and in our work for us to paint. Oftentimes with a new year, it just feels like there's new beginnings. Even if we're returning back to the same old thing or what we've always done, there's a feeling that there's at least an opportunity for some new beginnings, a fresh start. And of course, with that, many people are motivated to implement changes in their life, changes in their relationships, changes in their career, or changes in the vision that they might have for their team, their organization, or where they're hoping to go in their own personal life or their own career. So, this happens every new year, and I want to make sure that we enter it with a great mindset and to be thinking about what are those authentic changes or authentic new beginnings that we might need and you might want for your own life and the vision for your own life and your career. On January 2nd, just this year, we drove down the road and we drove past a retail store that specializes in running shoes. And it was funny to see that there was a line literally out the door. January 2nd comes and there's a line out the door of this place that sells running shoes with all these people that are eager, the new calendar, new year, new beginning, a fresh start, and certainly these intentions to hit the ground running, like literally. And so there's a line out the door. And so we know that with the new year, it brings passion, it brings excitement, it brings many intentions that people have, a desire to start new habits and a lot of health trends, of course. But unfortunately, we also know the research behind these things, that the research tells us that many of these quote-unquote resolutions that people set or the goals they set for themselves or the new habits that they're hoping to implement and that they talk about on January 1st, the research shows us that most people abandon those resolutions. They abandon those resolutions, those goals, those new habits by about February 1st. So these things that they launch into the new year with all this excitement and passion and this kind of new beginning for these resolutions, these goals, or these habits, that the research shows that many people, after about a few weeks, they go back to the old patterns. And so we have these great intentions, but we aren't really all that great with follow through. Or so that's what the research suggests, is that we have these great ideas, but we're not always able to follow them. And the reality is because it takes discipline to stay the course. It takes focus to keep away from the so many distractions that are around us every single day. And it takes commitment to follow the vision when the energy begins to wear off. This is why most people stop. This is why most intentions or most resolutions or most new habits aren't formed, is because it takes tremendous discipline to stay the course. It takes that kind of focus in the midst of distractions that are around us. And it takes commitment that as the energy wears off to continue to take a step and to keep moving in the right direction. So as we begin a new season on this podcast and all launch into the new year together, I want to be a voice to help support those intentions, those goals, those visions that you have for yourself or your team or your career, but in a realistic and helpful way. I know we all have them, but rather than them just be these flimsy intentions, I want to be supportive to all of us, myself included. I'm talking to myself as much as I'm talking to you, so that we enter this new year not with flimsy intentions, but with things that are realistic and actually helpful. I want to help you set yourself up for better success in making your vision become a reality. Whatever that person is, whatever that stuff is that you want to be, that you want to do in the world, that vision that you have for your team, your organization, your culture, I want to be a helpful presence along the way so that they aren't flimsy, but they're actually realistic, and we're making progress in that direction. So today, on today's podcast, we're going to start out with some reminders to help you with your vision out the windshield of your new year, the windshield of the year that lies ahead of your life and your work, wherever you are hoping to go in this year ahead. This podcast is going to be about remembering these key visioning tips that will help your vision actually have staying power. But before we do that, let's take a quick break, and then we'll be back together to talk about staying the course and bringing these visions to life.
Many teams and organizations right now are realizing they need to do both. They need to engage the minds and hearts of their people in person, bring people back together in person, and continue to engage the minds and hearts of their people virtually. So whether you're planning that next event, that power in congregation, the power and the energy that comes from bringing all your people into the same room, into the same space for that important meeting or conference, and you need a powerful keynote speech or facilitated team discussion or facilitated conversation that is the currency for change about leadership, about the culture that you're trying to create together, or the mindset that is needed to navigate all that is in front of you, whether you're planning that in person or you need to do that virtually. I hope that we can be a resource to you and support you in that effort. If so, contact us at jasonvbarger.com, at jasonvbarger.com, if we can partner with you to help engage the minds and hearts of your people in these important times.
So on today's podcast, we're breaking through these kind of flimsy intentions or resolutions or goals or these habits that maybe we talk about but we really aren't that committed to, and we're focusing on, I want to be a helpful voice again to how do we push through that and actually set goals or new habits or intentions that are rooted in something that we really want to actualize, that we will vision for our life or our work or our career, our organization, our team, that we want to actually come true. And I want to be a supportive voice along that journey. So every year when the calendar does turn to January, I do find myself thinking about my own personal mantra for the year. And, everybody does it slightly differently. But for me, lately in the last few years, it's been helpful for me to have a bit of a mantra or something. I found it to be helpful for clarity's sake to help me stay focused, to have a one word or a phrase or something that's going to be kind of a mantra to help guide me through the year. I've found it to be really important as I think about, again, my own vision and helping find clarity. What is that mantra that's going to help me guide me along the way? And for me, this year, as soon as the clock struck midnight and the calendar turned to January 1, I had one word that kept showing up in my mind, and I didn't plan it this way. I wasn't, it's not something I'd been thinking about all that intently over the last few weeks or months. But as the calendar turned and as the clock struck midnight, there was one word that I just kept reflecting on. For some reason, it just kept showing up in my mind, and it kept coming up in my consciousness, and it was the word onward. Onward. And with so much that has been happening in the year past, the word onward kept surfacing. I don't know why, but it just kept surfacing. And it's probably with so much that's been happening in the world that this just kind of mantra of onward. And if you're thinking about it this way, or if it's helpful to you, the Webster definition for onward is, it says, in a continuing forward direction, ahead. In a continuing forward direction, ahead. Onward. So my mantra in 2022 is to continue to go onward. That even in the midst of the obstacles, the fog, the things that are still unclear, the angst, so much stuff that's circling in the world that's out of my control, and things around me that don't always make a whole lot of sense. My mantra, at least for myself, is onward. That I don't want to stress about, I don't want to use extra stress. So let's just put it that way. I don't want to stress or waste extra energy on these things that I can't control. I want to challenge myself to take the next step, to just go onward in a continuing in a forward direction with that vision and with the things that are most important to me, and most importantly with the person that I want to be in the world. And so I'm holding that mantra out in front of me as I begin a new year. And it might be something for you to think about for your own life. What is it that's going to be your mantra, a one word or a phrase or something that might carry you ahead as you begin to think about making sure that that vision for what you're hoping to be and to do in the world, in the year ahead, that there's a mantra that might be your guide along the way. The other thing I know about setting intentions or goals or, again, these resolutions or creating new habits that actually stick is that it begins with a mindset, as many things do. Most things start with a mindset of how we're going to approach them. And as I begin every visioning experience that I have personally or that I help teams and organizations with, that one of the things that is most helpful in a mindset shift is to make sure that we before we set that vision or the goals or the intentions is to make sure that we let our being drive our doing. Some of you may have heard me say that before, especially if you've been a part of any visioning that I've helped you do individually or as a team or organization do. But so many people first begin their visioning with quickly jumping to all the things they're going to do. And in some ways, this is why I believe that New Year's resolutions in their most traditional sense don't often work well, is because most people jump quickly to just the doing. They stay so focused on, okay, what are the new things they're going to do in the new year? And so they start this giant list of all the things they're going to do on the road ahead. And what it really becomes is just a giant to-do list. And when we are focused only on what we're going to quote-unquote do, then it just becomes a list of obligations. It just becomes now a list of things that now I feel like I've got to do because I wrote them down. And so therefore, they really aren't rooted in anything significant. And therefore, after a few weeks of all these things that I just feel like I have to do just because I wrote it down, I end up not doing them. And so, when we're focused only on what we're going to do, it just becomes that obligation. But the most successful visioning experiences, in my opinion, and what I've experienced personally, and then also led with teams and organizations again, is the most successful visioning experiences begin with who do we want to be first. Let's start with who do we want to be before we focus on what is it that we're going to do. And so who do you want to be? Who do you hope to be in the year ahead in your own life? Who do you hope to be in your relationships? Who do you hope to be in your work? And try to describe it. Not what are you going to go do, but if you try to describe the type of person that you want to be, that you hope to be, again, in your own life, in your relationships, in your work, then what is compelling about the person you hope to be and the life that you hope to create? And to have it start with being focused on who you hope to be, and then from that, let your who you want to be drive what it is that you do. Rather than just launching into a long to-do list, start out with some reflection about who is it that you're hoping to be. And then from that, then you can begin to say, well, based off of who I want to be, or for our team or our organization, this is who we really want to be in the year ahead. Then we can begin to get intentional about, okay, based on that, rooted in our being, then what is it that we will do in order to bring that being to life? So let your being drive your doing rather than just launching into all the things that you say you're going to do that oftentimes, again, research shows us you won't actually do. It's a reminder each year for us. And also don't put pressure on yourself with, a false vision or someone else's vision for you. Again, the purpose of this is for you to step back and to think about it being authentic for you. So don't put pressure on yourself of what you think the vision is that you're supposed to have or that somebody else wants of you, but to really take the time to make sure that it's not a false vision, but it's real. Make sure it's what you want and who you authentically hope to be, that the vision is actually yours. And then from our mindset around being versus doing, then we can remember the three main C's of visioning. There are three main C's, as this is what I refer to, three main C's of visioning. One is, the first C is clarity. The vision must be clear. So it doesn't mean that you have everything figured out. It doesn't mean that you have every I dotted or T crossed for the next year of everything that's going to happen. That's not what I mean. But with clarity, the vision must be clear. So in a word or two or a sentence at the most, who do you hope to be on the road ahead? In your relationships, in your work, etc. If it's not clear, it's easy then to get confused or lose sight. Clarity is such an important thing, especially when we're experiencing foggy times or things, so much that's happening around us. So what is that vision? That vision that you have for yourself, again, of who you hope to be. But what is that big picture vision maybe for your team or your organization? And clarity, it doesn't mean you have it all figured out, but if you have clarity around where you're hoping to go, then people can begin, starting with you personally, but then the people around you can also begin to they can see it because it's clear. So the first C is clarity. We got to have clarity around, who it is that we're hoping to be in the road ahead, and to make sure that we can paint that vision. The second C is conviction, that your vision is way more likely to become a reality if there is conviction in who you hope to be. So people that, enter into the new year and focus again on the doing before the being, oftentimes they race into the new year. And so they may say, I'm going to run a mile, every day, or I'm going to run a mile every week, or I'm going to run a marathon, or whatever the thing is. And if they're focused only on the doing, then again, oftentimes it becomes and it feels much like an obligation. Whereas if it grows out of something of conviction, something that has purpose and roots to it, that I feel convicted that I need and want to be healthier in the new year, and from that clarity around who you hope to be, then if what comes out of that is what you're going to do is you choose to run a mile every day or run a marathon, or you want to, eat healthier or drink less or whatever that is for you, then all of a sudden there's conviction around your health or something that's deeper than just what you're going to do. And so, what is the compelling purpose that your being is rooted in? Why do you want to be these things? Is it real? Is it genuine and strong? Or is it just a flimsy wish that you're not truly committed to becoming or changing? And so the best visioning not only is clear, but also has conviction. That, there's honesty of what's important within yourself or within your team or your organization, that you're able to not only paint the vision for where you want to go with clarity, but there's conviction behind why you want to go there and where it is that you're traveling, why you're going on that journey together. And so to step back and to think, what is that purpose? What's that conviction behind the change that you're hoping to make? The third C is consistency. So consistency is obviously key to creating habits. What will you do each day to build habits in the areas you've identified for who you hope to be? So don't overwhelm yourself with a giant to-do list of, the 18 things you say you're going to go do. Really try to narrow it down as specifically as possible to small things. But we also know this, that it often takes, anywhere studies and research, differs in some ways, but says anywhere between about 21 to 30 days of perpetual consistent habits to create a new habit. We have to do the same thing for anywhere between 21 to 30 days to actually build a new habit. So what are the 1, 2, or 3 small things that you're going to do or that you're going to commit to in order to build that habit over a longer period of time? So what will you do each day to build habits in the areas you've identified for who you hope to be? And again, don't overwhelm yourself with a giant to-do list, but identify the 1 to 2 or 3 actions, behaviors that you want to commit to each day to build the new habit. And again, even if it's small things. Small intentional actions lead to significant change and new habits. But it often takes that 21, 30 days of repetition to build a new habit. So our vision in the year ahead and looking out that windshield for our own lives and for our own work, it's going to require clarity. Where is it that we really are hoping to go, and who is it that we're wanting to be? It's going to require conviction. Why are we hoping to go there, and what's the purpose behind it? It's going to require consistency, which means each day we've got to stay consistent and build some new habits of the actions and behaviors that we put into practice to build those new habits. And then actually, I'll introduce a fourth C, because also this is an important piece of it. A fourth C is that it's the word choice. Stop and appreciate the beauty of having choice, freedom, and an ability to choose what to do next and who you want to be for yourself and for other people. That all of this, if you're listening to this podcast, you get to choose. There's choice in all of this. Again, you may have expectations that are being placed on you from a work perspective, a company perspective, the role that you're in. You may have expectations certainly that are placed on you based on your partnerships that you're a part of, the relationships, the significant roles that you're playing. Of course, we all have expectations that others might have of us. But in the end of the day, the vision that you have for your life and for the road ahead and for the team or the organization, whoever you're a part of helping to create, it begins with choice. And to step back and to realize that you have choice in what is that clarity? What is that conviction that you're going to bring to it? And then what's the consistency, the choice that you're going to make each day to help bring that vision to life? You get to choose and get to be a participant in creating the vision that you want to bring to reality. So breathe in appreciation and gratitude for a new year, a new day, a clean slate, which doesn't mean that all our problems and challenges and obstacles go away. I know that, but to breathe in appreciation and gratitude for a new year, a new day, a clean slate, a new beginning to what you want to become. Because in that new beginning, it's powerful. There's energy in it when we step back and realize that we have the opportunity to make a choice around clarity, around conviction, and around the consistency that we'll bring to each day in order to actualize that vision. So we know this, that calibrating our personal thermostat for our own awareness and our own response, I mean, this is emotional intelligence 101, that our own personal thermostat, as we recognize our own vision, our own feelings, our own observations about what we're experiencing in the world, and then we're able to put that into action and behavior. And then we're also able to look across the table at teammates and throughout our organization and realize what is it that other people are wanting or feeling or thinking. And together that we get to be a part of creating a culture together. That is emotional intelligence. And we are the thermostats. Our own internal temperature sets a temperature externally for others based on our own response and our own behaviors. And yes, the mindset that we bring to it. So I hope you'll take the opportunity to ponder some of those questions that I put out in front of you. Is what's your mantra for the year ahead? What is it that, with clarity, who is it that you hope to be, yourself individually or for your team and organization? With conviction, why do you want to be that? And what's the purpose behind who you're hoping to be in the new year? And then with consistency, what are the 1, 2, or 3 actions and behaviors that you're going to commit to every day in order to drive the change that you want to see and that you want to be a part of? I hope you'll keep tuning in. We've got a great season ahead in support of your vision and our mindsets together of being authentic leaders in the world and creating compelling cultures. Remember, the best leaders, teams, and cultures on the planet stimulate progress by recalibrating their thermostats together. Thank you for listening to today's podcast, and I hope the messages and questions stimulate positive change along your path. As always, if these messages resonate with you and add value to your life, I hope you'll help amplify them throughout the world. Please rate, comment, and share on whatever podcast or social media platform you're using, and share this podcast with the people in your life or work who should be part of these conversations. That way, this spirit does, in fact, spread. If these messages or developing leaders and culture would be helpful to you and your organization, please contact us at jasonvbarger.com, jasonvbarger.com. And remember, we are all ambassadors for the culture we want to create in our life and work. We have to own the vision we want to be a part of. The future of leadership is you, is me, is us. Be a thermostat.